I would like to introduce our first speaker, Darcy. Go ahead, Darcy.
Thank you so much, Eileen, for your service. I'm Darcy from Madison, Wisconsin, and for 677 days, I have been blessed with abstinence because I write down my food, call it into my sponsor every day. I weigh and measure and eat exactly what I committed. I first became abstinent on January 15th, 2018, and I have to say I am surprisingly nervous and a bit intimidated with the level of experience on this call. So thank you all for joining. I can't believe I was writing down the absence years, 1983, that's incredible, 1998, 2004, 2006, 2007. So, and then all of you who are also newer like I am, welcome. I'm learning a lot as I go. I do not feel qualified to be here, and I'm honored to be of service in this way to help share how I plan, prepare, and protect for the holidays. So when I first became abstinent, it was January 15th of 2018. So I've gone through every holiday being abstinent. I've gone through each holiday at least once. And I'm so grateful for that, because if you had asked me before I found GreySheeters, if it was possible,
We gotta, yeah. Can you start again with the?
Yeah. So if you had asked me before becoming abstinent if it was possible to not overindulge at Thanksgiving and Christmas and every other holiday, I just would have said no way. I mean, that's just wouldn't be possible. And as a matter of fact, I would have thought you were crazy, because my mindset was that if I deprived myself of celebrating, that I would later binge uncontrollably. So I figured it was better off to just indulge and binge controllably to prevent the uncontrollable binge, which was like crazy thinking, right? And so one of the things I'm so grateful for with GSA is that and not only, am I healthier in my food and what I'm eating, I'm healthier in my thoughts and my habits. And so this is my second time approaching Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's abstinently. And so I have a lot to learn, but I'm certain that I don't do everything right. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I'm going to share some of those mistakes in case it helps some of you to maybe avoid them. And I just also, before I jump in, wanted to say how grateful I am to the Southwest Intergroup's YouTube channel. I absolutely love it, and I often listen to recordings when I'm cutting and preparing my food. I just have it in the background, and the inspiration, experience, and strength and hope is really motivating to me. So I've got bullets, and I'm going to read a little bit more so that my thoughts are more organized, and I've kind of organize them into the before. What do I do before a holiday, and then what do I do during? And I've been adding to this for the last month, and so it might not flow exactly well. As I thought of things, I added bullets onto them. So before the holiday, one of the things that I have done is to tell the host that I have special food restrictions, and that I'll bring my own food so that they don't have to worry about me, and I don't have to worry about explaining that. That's something I learned the hard way. When I thought I was too embarrassed or ashamed and I didn't share, I found it way more challenging to be present, because I was wondering, when do I say something, or how do I hide? And now I just have learned to call ahead of time and let them know, and then also offer to bring a dish for everyone that may or may not be abstinent that I can offer. And then I have found that for me, I weigh and measure my food typically before I go. I have found and learned the hard way that it's just too distracting and unpredictable to do it there, to try and find peace and quiet. I honestly was surprised for how simple GreySheet is, how complex it is to try and weigh and measure when there's people and things coming in and out. Honestly, I'd be like, oh shoot, was it? So I now mostly weigh and measure my food before I go. And then when I get there, I try to have it all ready to go so that when finally people sit down to eat, I can just grab my plate and join in. So I'll have my cooked vegetables, I'll go and heat those up, and I'll have them waiting. I'll have everything weighed and measured, just sort of on the table and in the kitchen, and then I'll grab it when everybody's like, okay, we'll sit down. I'll just grab it and sit down, and usually everybody's sort of so chaotic that nobody's even noticing. I don't know, for me being newer in my abstinence, I found that the place I'm at now, coming up to my 2nd year anniversary, is a lot more at peace. At the beginning, I was very nervous about what people would think and what they'd say, and felt ashamed that I was different. And now I've come to much more of a place of peace with that. As a matter of fact, when I called my sister yesterday to ask her, she's hosting Thanksgiving, what can I bring? She said, just bring your own food, whatever it is that you need to eat, so I don't have to worry about you, and I'll have everything else. And I was like, oh my gosh, that to me was like success, that there wasn't, like, well, why aren't you eating this? Or, there was no questions. She just was like, you do you. And that was wonderful. So then sometimes I will also ask in advance what the menu is, so that I can, in case there's some things that I can join in and enjoy. Typically I find that the place where that happens with the greatest likelihood is on the protein, because even if the vegetables are abstinent, I find that there's not enough, and I feel really bad taking my huge serving. And like oftentimes what's out for the table of 10 people, I'm taking like, half of it or some huge amount. And so I've learned that I still bring that. Now, that has not typically been the case with the protein, but except for recently, I had a couple of examples where at some holiday parties, I called ahead and they were going to have some grilled abstinent protein. But then when we sat down, and I thought, oh, perfect, I'll just have that. And we sat down, the host served one for each person. And the piece that I got was only 3.5 ounces. And so I was like, oh, I never even thought about the fact that there wouldn't be enough protein. So luckily I had my bag of backups at the floor on by my table, and I just pulled out my abstinent protein and I added it to my raw vegetables, and it was all fine. But that was the first time that I have experienced where there wasn't enough protein. At another place I went to, there was going to be a buffet, and the only protein that they had was literally the only protein was a protein that we don't eat, little round things that is for vegan and vegetarian. And so I, of course, made the mistake of forgetting my backup at home at that point. And so I had to get in the car. We were in the middle of nowhere and had to drive 30 minutes to the closest town to get some protein, and came back. So, I had to learn that one kind of the hard way. So then I also, beforehand, I sort of offered to help in the kitchen, and I tell the host how amazing it looks and smells and how delightful it is, just so that I'm part of that sense of community. And it is amazing, and it is beautiful, and it does smell, and I'm sure it tastes delicious. And so as opposed to where I used to sort of hide or not say something, I now am a part of that conversation. And they're usually really proud of what they've made. And so that feels good, even if I don't or choose not to eat what they're serving. I also will pack and bring my own sparkling water and tea and coffee, so that I know that there is something abstinent that I can have to drink. That's particularly important at my in-laws, because they typically only have alcoholic options or options with sugar. And if we're going to celebrate the holidays at a restaurant, I'll look at the menu and a lot of times call ahead of time to see what they have and to make sure it's prepared abstinently. There was one time where I was going to a holiday party, and I actually ordered it for takeout ahead of time, what I thought I could have, so that I knew what exactly the sizes were, and I pre-weighed and measured it, because I find at a restaurant a lot of times there's not enough, and I need to order like 2 or 3 different servings. And in that case, I didn't want it to be about me, and I didn't want to order 3 meals. And so ordering it ahead of time was great, because what I got was horrible, and it was very small portions, and I was shocked. And so I was able to plan and prepare before actually the holiday party where I was going to be there. And I think that helped me set me up a little bit more for success, knowing the portion size was so small. And then I'll typically then will bring backup vegetables, also because it gets really expensive to order 2 or 3 if indeed we're going to a restaurant. One of the mistakes I made that I didn't know until my gracious, wonderful sponsor shared afterwards, I was going to a holiday party where my former boss was going to be there. he's a US Senator and really important. And the last thing I wanted was to be sitting there asking the waitress like this and weighing, measuring, thank you. And so I got there in advance. I thought it was so clever. I told them exactly what I needed and the amounts. I gave them my scale and they came out with it all pre and weighed and measured. I didn't know that I have to weigh and measure my own food. I learned that lesson the hard way. And so I will not do that again. And I share that for those of you who might think you're also being clever like I thought I was. And then I'll try to eat my breakfast later on those days where we're going to celebration, because I can't believe how often they'll say lunch will be served at 1 and everybody is grazing all day. And so it won't be served until like 3 or 4. And so I just learned to eat a little later, and then I just wait and I have my abstinent drinks while I'm waiting, and then I bring my food and typically we'll eat with the group. So then during, if there are questions, I used to just answer them while I was preparing it. I have now learned that and yesterday even I was at a holiday luncheon and I just said, you know, I'm happy to answer any questions, but not while I'm weighing and measuring. And after I was done and finished, I went back to her and I said, did you have some questions? She said, yeah, I'm really curious. And I really had no shame about sort of just saying, you know, no questions while I'm weighing, measuring, and eating. And that felt really good. If I need to, I'm not beyond saying that I'm allergic to something. I had a holiday party where the host had made twice baked something that we don't eat. And when I arrived, he said, now I understand you have food restrictions, but is that a personal choice or is that medical reasons? And I said, yes. Oh, thank God. I just said yes. That's all I said. And he said, well, shoot, he said, because if it was just a choice or a preference, I was going to make you taste them, because I don't know anybody yet who doesn't love my, you know, twice baked somethings. And I graciously told him, I said, oh, I'm sure they are the very best. And I'm so bummed, but that'll just leave more for everybody else. And they all laughed, and that was that. And then at another holiday gathering, I came back from the bathroom and the group that was there had just done a shot of alcohol and they had saved one left for me. And everyone was watching as they eagerly handed it to me and said, here's yours. And you guys, I felt like I was in 7th grade. Like the peer pressure was so strong and everyone was looking at me. Thankfully, that was not last year. That was this holiday season. And so I just said, oh my God, how fun, you did shots. So I'm not going to have it. So who wants a second? And somebody grabbed it, and, you know, and I had said it with such resolve and confidence that it like surprised me. And the other guy took it and drank it and like, no problem. It was just so great. And so the other piece that I've got here, and I'm almost done, I know my time is coming up here. Last year when I was newer in my abstinence and I was at holiday events, I made sure to stay out of the room where the food was all spread out on the buffet table, and had my stash of sparkling water in a different room, and I stayed out of there, and it really helped me to not get triggered. I'm amazed that this year it's like a non-issue. I can be anywhere at the party. I can be right next to the food as people are coming up and serving themselves, and I don't feel like it's just a non-issue. I'm just there for the conversation, and I'm amazed looking at it. And this was a wonderful invitation to reflect on that, because I hadn't really thought about how far I've come from last year to this year. And the other last thing I have, I think, is, oh, and then I had already shared that, the crisis where I had to bring my extra protein. So I will typically now, I've worked just recently with my sponsor about creating a backup package that I just always have in my car no matter what. And backup of fat, protein, cooked and raw vegetables that I can have there for when thank you, Kathy, for when I might have, like, when I forgot my backup protein in the house, in the refrigerator, and I had to drive 30 minutes. That lesson was what spawned me to say, okay, sponsor, help me figure this out. What can I have that's a backup that I don't have to remember in the moment, I can just have in my car? So I think that's the last piece. So thank you so much, everybody, for the honor of sharing today, and for the great community that we have, and happy holidays to all of you.